All right. Good morning, everybody. It is 11 a.m. here on the East Coast. I am Arian Sigeti. I will be your guide today. Just said my name, Arian Sigeti. I'm a senior solutions architect here at Simulate. And today we're going to be talking about attack-based vulnerability prioritization. As most of you know, if you've seen my talks before, or if you haven't, please keep this interactive. There is a question box up there. I'm going to make a quick announcement in there, and that is just to give everybody our website at Simulate here, as well as my email address. If there's ever any questions you have, you can clearly, let's go ahead and hit yes display now. All right, it should be displaying. I want to go ahead and, again, if there's any questions throughout the entire chat, I do check periodically. I'm here to answer anything if you see some things that are more interesting to you on it. And if I can quickly touch on it, or if it's a 20-minute answer, I'll give you the quick one. There's always my email address there, arians@simulate.com. You can always go to our website, sign up for a free trial. So who is Simulate? Let's start there, right? We are actually, really quick, let me go ahead and make sure that I have some of my Slack channels, all those things kind of close up. You know how that can be, as people start automatically trying to call you during a presentation. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go ahead and walk through this. And we're going to walk through what Simulate looks like from an attack-based vulnerability prioritization. Now, Simulate is a SaaS platform who provides you the capability to do breach and attack simulation, automated pen testing, continuous automated red teaming, right? Vulnerability prioritization. You're going to see this platform. Now, we're going to focus today onto one of our actions. Let me close my door so my dog doesn't disturb me. Sorry about that. I got a 20-pound killer out there. And so we're going to go through maybe 3 or 4 PowerPoint slides. Don't hold that against me, please, if you don't mind. It's not going to be much, and then we're going to jump right into the platform. We're going to show you exactly how we're able today to be able to show you how this can benefit your vulnerability management program, right? We're all about integrations here. We're all about running these things in a controlled manner. We're about providing you more context, right? The greater the context, the ability to make informed decisions. So I hope you get a lot out of this today, and so let's get right into it. Let's go ahead and share my screen. Let's click the old share screen, and let's see here. And let's see, go to screen. Oh, I have to authenticate, use my password. That's weird. Let's see if this unlocks it now. And Google Chrome. We will see if I can do this here. Okay, screen 1, screen 2. We'll go ahead and share that out. And it does not look like it's sharing. Hold on. Of course, technical difficulties abound. Come on, Bright Talk. Why are you not sharing here? Let's see if I can just do a window then. I'm not sure why this is having issues. Hold on. Let's just see if I could share this here. Okay, so we're going to forego the PowerPoints. I could not get those going. What you're looking at here is the Simulate platform in and of itself. So without jumping into the slides, I'll just kind of walk you through it, right? This will be fine. So Simulate is a SaaS-based service. We are a continuous security validation platform. What we provide is security posture management. Now we're going to walk through how some of the times, or how today, how you can provide more towards your security posture management program, right? So we're going to show you security validation with vulnerability management. We're going to show you security posture management, all of those things working together. Now we like to answer those questions from the ability to assess, the ability to optimize, to do remediation, to do reinvestment and drift detection, and get all those things going into a loop. All right, so what we're looking at today is the ability to go ahead and run any one of these different modules that you see. I'm going to walk you through what these modules are, what they mean, and then how they relate to vulnerability prioritization. So first and foremost, when we look at our modules, we see all these different numbers, right? You can tell that our founders were golfers. They like to go from the ability to reduce risk. So the lower the score, you can see a 41 or 34 right here, the lower the risk. The higher the score, you see this one up here, the higher the risk to your organization. So let's go ahead and look at that, what that looks like. So in this case, we got a 100 out of 100. Now, if this was one of my kids, I'd be, ecstatic. And what we're looking at here, though, is the ability to, we want to reduce this number, right? High number, high risk. Low number, low risk. All right. Now, the scoring itself is actually pulled from the assessments that we provide. Now, you can see there's these different circles here. These are the different assessments. So it could be something like email gateway. What is the security efficacy of your email security product? Or endpoint security. What is the efficacy against a ransomware, against a worm, against a Trojan? Now, we do all of these things in a very safe manner. So let's go ahead and walk you through some of these things. What we're going to do is we're going to start with attack surface management. Now, why attack surface management? Now, it is external, right? So we're looking at this from an external perspective. Now, when we start thinking about attack-based vulnerability prioritization, we're going to think about this as externally. How does an attacker look at your organization, right? Knowing what they can see from the outside is imperative for then how we're going to start our path going forward. All right. So again, there's things that we can do externally. There's things that we can do internally. You're going to see how we provide you on both sides of the house. So let's start with our attack surface management. Again, just as a reminder, if there are any questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat itself. I will answer those questions as we go through. Thank you. So attack surface management, this is where it all starts, right? An attacker has to know something about you in order to do it. They can always do a spray and pray. That's very hard. There's a lot that goes into it. Or they can look specifically and say, what can I glean about you? Where can I know? What can I do with that information, right? So let's go ahead and look into one of our campaigns. So this campaign, attack surface management, you can see this simulate score is an 89. If you recall, the higher the number, the higher the risk. The lower the number, the lower the risk. Well, what's the first thing we do? The first thing we're doing is we're going to classify your different assets. Now we start with a domain, and we look at you from an organizational perspective from like that. We look at the domain, we say, okay, what kind of IPs can I find about this? What kind of domain assets can I create? What kind of web applications can I find? Are there cloud buckets, storage buckets? Is there shadow IT that you didn't know about? We're going to group all of these different things, right? Is there potential phishing domains out there? We're going to group all of these different things into an asset. Now, you can see that we're actually providing top findings by risk and asset amount, right? Vulnerable software in use. We can see those things, top asset by findings. This particular website has 30 different findings associated with it, right? You can see all of these different things, but what the core basis, what we're providing is an asset database. Now, this is external. We're looking at this one externally. So from an external perspective, we're going to look at this as an asset. So I find out all these assets. Now, this is an always-on module for Simulate. We're not doing this one time and then just walking away, and 6 months later you run it again. This is always on. This is constantly updating your asset database. So if you do have your own asset database, you can utilize this by exporting this data itself into your asset database, constantly updating it, right? Could be something like a web application. Did you know that that's out there? More than likely you did, but here's those things, right? Maybe it's an IP address. Did you know this IP address is publicly facing? Are you utilizing it? You probably did, but it is right there. Okay, so we've created our assets. Now, again, I'm going to bring this all back to vulnerability, attack-based vulnerability prioritization. So now we're looking at this and we're saying, okay, I have these I have these assets. I have all of these things here. I can look at them. I can see if they're real to me. What do I care about them? But now let me take one particular one. I'm going to use this one right here, acme.com. It's a 443, right? This is an externally facing website. So this is clearly a potential attack vector. It's externally facing. What can an attacker utilize about this information? Let's go look at it. So the first thing that we're looking at is we're doing a scan of this website, right? Like I said right there, acme.com. It's a 443. I have my IP address. What can I learn? What can I glean from this? Why would I utilize this to attack versus a different one? Well, the first thing you can see is I'm looking at different vulnerable software that's in use. Maybe there's an externally hosted JavaScript, right? So I can actually look at the different types of different findings that I can find out about this, right? In this case, it's vulnerable software. So let's actually look at this. You can see here, I'm investigating it. I found it. It's investigating. Let's go look at it. So first things first is I can see along the MITRE attack framework, I have two different clickable links. I can look and see how vulnerable software can actually lead to a MITRE attack, so I can get the education side of it. The second thing I'm doing is, okay, here's my source module. It's retired JavaScript. Now I can see here it's a jQuery. Here's my evidence. Here's my confidence factor rating. Here's my versioning of it. And then the different vulnerabilities associated with it. Now you can see here these two ones below. Because of their severity, I might be able to introduce a cross-site scripting attack. So again, what I'm looking at is, okay, now I have my vulnerability that I know about. I'm going to attack this, right? I'm going to attack this to see, do I need to patch this right away? So what I'm going to transition is, so this is a web application, right? So we know this is a web application. It's externally facing. I have a potential that I could introduce a cross-site scripting attack. So what can I do from there? All right, the next thing I'm going to do is, now that I've identified that asset, I'm going to go ahead and run a web application test. And what I can do here now is I identified that it was again, we identified this web application. It has some vulnerabilities on it. Is my compensating control actually stopping it? So now I'm going to run a cross-site scripting attack, as you can see here. I'm going to send about 5,300 payloads right over here. And I'm going to pick that particular one that I just found. Now, I don't have it in here, but I'll just pick this one. So now what I've done is I said, okay, I know that there's a vulnerability. I know that I have to patch that vulnerability. One, is this vulnerability exploitable through my compensating controls? I'm going to figure that out. So then I use my URL and I can launch that on demand. Maybe I schedule it every single week because that's something that I have to be able to protect. What I've just done is be able to create the ability to find an asset from an attacker's perspective, find a vulnerability, and prioritize whether I need to patch that asset or create a web application firewall rule, or both, right? Maybe I want to accomplish both, but maybe my WAF policy actually stops those cross-site scripting attacks. So now what I've done is I've deprioritized my patching of that web application, because my compensating control has shown me that even if somebody tries to send a cross-site scripting attack, it's going to be blocked. Hence, attack-based vulnerability prioritization. I had a high priority, what I thought would be, and I've deprioritized that, and now I have that web application and my normal patching cycle. All right, let me check to see if there's any questions about what I just said. All right, no questions yet. Like I said, if there are any questions along the way, please go ahead and ask. Now, let's take a different perspective on this, right? Go back to our dashboard. We're going to look at some things here. We're going to look at this from vulnerability, right? You have a vulnerability management program. You're running weekly scans. You're, checking out your infrastructure, your applications. Are they vulnerable? Do you have any criticals, any highs? Are there any CVEs in your environment that you absolutely have to patch? Right? You're running those programs. You're doing your due diligence, and now you have 1,000 criticals, or maybe it's 50 criticals and 1,000 total. Right? Whatever it is, how do you prioritize that? Right? One of the things that we're going to give you a unique capability is the ability to be able to integrate with your vulnerability management vendor, that OEM. We're going to integrate that, and we're going to pull that CVE data. And what we're going to give you is a unique view on attackers utilizing CVEs. So again, you might be vulnerable and you might be exploitable, but if nobody's utilizing that vulnerability and exploit because maybe it was too hard, maybe it just isn't common enough, again, giving you the capability and understanding on how you can prioritize based off of attackers. So first things I want to show you, right, is this is CVE. Well, this is actually Log4j. So let's go to another one because that's going to give too many people PTSD. So we're going to use this one here. So this is a real CVE that exists in your environment, potentially, right? This would be the affected asset. Now, this is only one line item here, but if you had 20 different, 30, 40, 50 different servers that have not been patched for this critical vulnerability, then those would all appear here. Now, this data comes directly from your vulnerability management OEM. We're going to pull that data. We're going to provide it here. Now, the first thing we do is we populate it here. We show you your top vulnerability by assets, but you already know all this data. What we want to show you is the next thing, which is right down here. Is any attack groups out there actually utilizing this CVE? Now, we've got years and years of data of attack groups that utilizing CVEs. So we're going to be able to run those things back. And we're going to show you, okay, over the last few years, maybe nobody's utilizing that CVE, or maybe people are. In this case, you can see that 2 different attack groups are actually utilizing this CVE in their attack. Now, what we would do is you could run this assessment. Could you stop the signature of that attack? The command and control URLs, the command and control IPs, the signature of the file types that they utilize in their attack. So that's one thing you can do. And you can see here, I was not able to actually prevent my endpoint and my web gateway, my firewall, my proxy, my perimeter control, was not able to identify, even though I tested it, that actual attack. So now I know my defense in depth has not or is vulnerable to allowing this particular CVE and this particular attack group in. So I have one of 2 things I can do now. I can go ahead and fix this, which might be an easy fix, and that might, again, solve your critical controls. Or I can decide to patch all these servers, which might take a longer time. Right? Now, what I can also do, though, is let's come down here, is if I have the ability to run an exploit, I could run an exploit in this environment to say, okay, even though I didn't identify the signature, I can actually identify the behavior and stop that particular behavior. Now, that's what this is. This is a behavioral attack where I can come in here and you can see CVE, and I'm going to run this particular attack to see how does my endpoint protection react to it. So I have multiple options here. I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to see if there's any questions, and then I'll walk through this a little bit more. Let's see here. Got a question. How is this different than a vulnerability detection and response system like a Qualys or something? Is Simulate used for pen testing? So I'll kind of break those up into 2 different questions, but 2 great questions. So the difference between us is we're not actually doing the scans. We're providing a platform for you to attack to see, first and foremost, does your compensating control actually stop a real attack, right? So your vulnerability management scans, right? They're doing those scans and they're telling you this server is vulnerable. Well, that's a great first thing you need to know, and you have to know those things, right? And they provide a great tool set for you there. They'll also tell you, where's the exploitability of this. What we're going to do is provide you the capability to actually try to exploit this in a safe manner, or try to see if your compensating controls, your endpoint detect and response, your AV, your firewalls, your email security, or is it stopping the known attack groups that are utilizing those vulnerabilities, right? And again, like I said, we've got thousands in here. So they're going to find you a vulnerability. We're going to provide you the platform to attack that, to see, can it actually be exploited? Are you actually able, or do you have a compensating control? So that's the first part of the question, right? Is how are we different? So we're different. We are an attack platform. The second question is Simulate utilizes a pen testing tool. Now, you absolutely can build your own penetration test within Simulate. Again, it depends on language. Really, that's what it comes down to. Language in and of itself, right, is we are a breach and attack simulation. We're built from pen testers, but we are not a pen test company, right? We are a platform that allows you to attack yourself in many, many thousands upon thousands of different ways every single day. We believe that pen tests are great. We run our own pen tests. We also believe that continuous security validation every single day is absolutely needed, right? That's that security posture management program. It's no longer just testing once a year. It's testing every day, right? Did I make a change to an application? Did I make a change to a web server? Did I make a change to a cloud account? Did that make me more vulnerable, or did that reduce my risk, right? Every single change that we make needs to be evaluated to make sure that the risk is acceptable to the business in and of itself. But great questions either way. Thank you. Okay, so we talked a little bit about, again, right, attack-based vulnerability prioritization. How does this help you prioritize? Now, I was showing you this critical here. This critical here, one, as you're running through your defense in depth attacks, it's going to help you prioritize whether I have to patch this system or not, right? Out of band. So if I'm prioritizing my out of band systems because something comes up, right? And I'll bring up this one here because it is so new. Log4j. A lot of people were scrambling, trying to identify. Do they even have Log4j available in their network, right? That was one of the things that we helped with people, right? Our external scanners and our internal scanners were there looking for those particular Log4j vulnerabilities, right? So what we're doing here is we're saying, okay, you know what you have. Are you protected? You run it. There's 4 different attack groups that are actually using this as an exploit. You block all of these. Great. You still have to patch this. This doesn't stop you from patching. But what it does saying, instead of it, if it's a Friday night and patching Friday night and your normal patch cycle is Tuesday, you can wait till Tuesday, right? Now, again, that's a choice for you all to make, but it allows you to make context and attack-based decisions based off of real world attacks safely in your environment. All right. So few different things that we've covered today, right? And a little bit more about Simulate as a whole is, we talked about attack surface management. We talked about how externally we're looking at you every single day. We're looking at your different external side and different findings. We'll walk through the example of a web application firewall. So again, when we look at this is we took the internal side. Is your immediate threats that are out there the threat of the day? Are you vulnerable to those things? Do you have to patch today, right now? I'm going to also look at this from an attack-based vulnerability prioritization on your specific security controls. So I'm going to take email, for example, right? If I look at email and I look at the attack surface of email, is generally the attack surfaces, URLs, right? Are you keeping up to speed or up to date on the most known command and control URLs? But more importantly, generally more importantly, is the file types. So when we look at about, again, vulnerability prioritization, this is actually going to help you from a hygiene perspective. So the email gateway assessment, this actually allows you to send emails to your organization, right? In this case, we would do like a service account, right? But what we're evaluating is your email security efficacy, right? Let's look at the efficacy of your email security policies that you have deployed. Now, I can look at this as, am I vulnerable to a PDF attack? Well, of course, if I allow PDFs. But let's look at this in a little bit different manner, right? Let's say we're going to, let's go ahead and build this out. Windows here. Now, I want to know, am I vulnerable to a particular malware attack? Or maybe it's dummy executions or all of these, right? Maybe it's a worm. Am I vulnerable to a worm attack? How do I know? I don't know unless I run it, right? And so I'm gonna select all these, but I could also say, you know what? I don't know what file types, one, I'm vulnerable to unless I run those. So I'm gonna run these all, and you can see there's a lot of different file types here. Now, I'm gonna run this knowing that maybe I'm blocking zip files, or maybe I'm blocking MSI files. Maybe you should be. Let's run through this to make sure that you're actually doing it. And you know what? Do we have our optimal configurations, right? We could be, blocking but vulnerable to something because we're not looking one step deep, or 2 steps, or 3 steps deeper into those file types themselves. So when I look at this here, right, I'm going to go ahead. I'm actually going to do a true file type detection. Am I vulnerable to somebody just changing an exe to a txt? Something as simple as that. At the end of the day here, I'm going to go ahead, and this is how quickly you can build out a simulate template. Now you can apply this across any number of the different areas that we provide. But you can see here, there's going to be nearly 16,000 emails that are sent. Now I can schedule that to run right now. I can schedule that to run every single day, every week, every month. Maybe I'm doing weekly. Maybe I'm doing monthly. Again, it's really up to you. So if you have a change control that's every week, you create a template that says pre-change control. It runs. You have a template that says post-change control. That runs a day later. So now you're able to identify those different attacks and those assessments, and you're able to see, is there any drift detection as well. So let me kind of summarize this up here, see if there's anything left to talk about in this case. So attack-based vulnerability prioritization. Simulate believes, and we've seen this validated by our customers, that you should be testing and evaluating every single day, right? There's thousands of attacks that are going on every single day, and you should be able to understand and know and have visibility into those. Based off the attacks, there's going to be different vulnerabilities for everybody, right? Your organization is vulnerable compared to a different organization. So based off of those different vulnerabilities, we want to prioritize the ones that are maybe not mitigatable. Maybe your defense and depths don't stop those. And so those mediums and highs I'll get to those after I'm done with the criticals. No, you'll get to those ones first because you aren't able to block those. Whereas the criticals, you were able to block them. Right? So it gives you the capability to make decision points very easily. All right. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Once again, my name is Arian Seghetti. I'm going to put in the announcements again, our website here, simulate.com. Let's make sure I spell that right. And my email address here. This is, if you have any questions whatsoever, please go ahead. Email me, arians@simulate.com. Go to our website. You can sign up for a free trial. In a matter of a couple of minutes, you're able to start assessing your environment. Maybe it's an email assessment. Maybe it is a firewall assessment, a DLP or whatnot. We'll reach out to you. We'll walk you through it. This is one of the great things about our platform. It's simple, it's easy to use, it's comprehensive, and we want to help you build out your security posture management program. All right. I want to thanks again, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.